Today is a very important episode in which I'm going to explain just exactly why Cardano ADA is one of the foundational coins in my portfolio and why I believe it will stand the test of time. I'm also going to give my price predictions for next cycle as well as the market cap I think we could hit. But before that, here's just a taste of what you can expect from a Twitter Spaces, a fireside chat that I hosted with Charles Hoskinson just a few months ago.
To me, I've always been a libertarian at heart. I say, just let people be free. Let people have rights. That's the original American invention. We wrote the Constitution, we had the Bill of Rights, and we thought that if people could have their own faith and people could have their own speech and the right to assemble and fundamental human rights, God-given rights, that we as a society would be better off. And that built the greatest nation in human history. And now we have a war for the identity of that nation. And there's people who have decided that we no longer have the right to have that. We should live in a dystopian society. And I think the cryptocurrency movement at its core is not an economic one. It's one about freedom and liberty. So I will say that from mountaintops. And what you see going on with Coinbase and all this stuff with the SEC, those are just tools to basically push us in that particular direction. And we have to stand up and say, no, we like to own our own identity, have our own economic agency, and be in control of our lives.
Wow, that was incredible. And it gives me the goosebumps to think that this is the cry heard around the world right now is the importance and the necessity for freedom. And what you say in some of these talks is that people fall into the easy trap of let the government take care of me because the government says that they know better, that they can do better for you. And I really like what you said about, this is going to, if we do this right, we pull it off, we reset the relationship from the governed to those who govern. And we go from don't be evil to can't be evil. And one where you're in control. And that's so powerful.
So I hope you liked it. Now I'm going to get into just exactly why Charles Hoskinson believes that cryptocurrency is the future, why he's going slow and steady. Spoiler alert, I believe slow and steady will always win the race when it comes to cryptocurrency. His epic comeback when a Cointelegraph reporter asked him why he doesn't build faster, why Cardano is lagging.
I mean, how fast would you like us to move? Like at Luna speed? Was that fast enough? I mean, it's kind of preposterous when you're talking about a system that is in charge of tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of other people's money. And at the end of the day, if they fail, they could even result in death. Like a privacy coin, if a person gets doxxed, they could be killed by their government or arrested. That you would say, oh, well, the only thing that matters is getting as many customers as quickly as possible. What they're really saying is we'd like the token price to go up a 10x or 100x so we can sell and make money. If you're really concerned about government adoption, company adoption, and real use and utility and billions of customers, the protocol should be around for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, like TCP/IP, for example, with the internet. So you have plenty of time to think about these things. What really matters is your growth curve. Cardano keeps getting more capable every year. And what have we lost? We now have smart contracts. We have blockchain-based governance. We have the best-in-class consensus protocol. We have a strong, stable community. We've always been a top 10 cryptocurrency. And it looks like we're going to fare very well in the next bull market, especially given that there's a lot of great dApps that are in our ecosystem. Meanwhile, we haven't had $35 billion of DeFi hacks. We haven't had catastrophic protocol failure. We haven't had a 9% reduction in token value overnight because of a flawed economic model. And we have an understandable system that everybody can connect to and understand.
As well as his vision for the crypto space as a whole, where he wants to take Cardano, and my price predictions for the end of this upcoming cycle. Now, those of you who know me know that this was one of my biggest investments last bear market. At the end of the last bear market, right around this time last cycle, I invested in Cardano at just under 5 cents and did a 65x within the next coming year. Now, I believe we are on track to get another massive opportunity in Cardano. Just how massive? Stay tuned to the end to find out. If you want to skip through all of the interview part with Charles, which I highly recommend you don't, I recommend you watch it, because one of the most important parts when it comes to investing is having conviction in your investments. And part of that is hearing from the leaders, hearing about their vision, and understanding why you're in this in the first place. So stay tuned to the end, because I will be giving my price predictions for Cardano, my base case, as well as my most bullish case, as well as how high I think the market cap for Cardano can go and more. All of that at the end of the episode, so stay tuned. And without further ado, let's get right into it. I like to get things started by helping you visualize just exactly where I started this same exact time frame last cycle. In fact, I was a little bit later in the last cycle, investing in Cardano at just under 5 cents to go on to do almost a 65x within that bear market within about 1 year's time, and what your investment would have looked like if you would have been able to do the same. So $500 investment would have been equivalent to $30,000 at the top of the cycle when it hit $3. $1,000 would have been $62,000. $5,000 would have been $300,000, and $10,000 would have been over $500,000, $625,000. That is not money that you can make anywhere else in any other market, period. And it's not getting lucky. I mean, I didn't know where it could head at that time, but I knew that it was the future. And so I invested in it, knowing and having the conviction that I was placing an excellent bet. I did my research, I read the white paper, I watched interviews, and I decided that this was one of the cryptos that could stand the test of time, and it went on to do very well. Now, could you potentially get this same opportunity this time around? I'm going to explain what my thoughts are at the end of the episode, so stay tuned until the end for my price predictions, how high I think the Cardano market cap could hit, as well as what that would look like for smaller investments when made at this point in the cycle. In fact, when I first started talking about Cardano again, about a month ago when I started these 200 daily videos to the Bitcoin halving, we were at 26 cents and we're already at 38 cents. So things are picking up quickly, and it's important to act now. That being said, let's get right into the interview with Charles Hoskinson. This is going to help you understand cryptocurrency as a whole, why we fight, as well as why Cardano is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best investments in the entire cryptocurrency landscape. And it is not always the fastest, shiniest, sexiest coin that wins the race. Yes, this is a more long-term play, but as you can see, it paid off for me greatly last cycle, and I believe we could see some explosive moves from Cardano this cycle. So just to set the tone, here is the intro from the fireside chat that I hosted with Charles Hoskinson on Twitter Spaces. It is absolutely fantastic. I suggest you listen to this from start to finish. You're going to learn a lot about the space, and he is just an iconic leader. And this is what we should want out of all of the founders of all of the tokens, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and listen to this intro to set the tone.
Where we're at as an industry right now, it's such an important crossroad after all of the bad actors have been washed out. And, we're kind of left here in the bear market with the people who are building and creating that solid foundation for the future, having this discussion about how industry leaders can come together and do better and pick up the pieces. And so on that note, I'd love to segue over to Charles, our esteemed guest for the day, Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I hope everybody can hear me all right. Twitter Spaces has always been a little glitchy, but it's a heck of a lot of fun because we get to interact with people real time and we get huge audiences.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you being one of the most important voices on the precipice of one of the most important changes in human history, I couldn't think of a more important room to be in.
You're too kind. I just try to be the guy in the back pushing things along and getting things done. I mean, we've made enormous progress as an industry over the last 13 years. We've gone from nothing to a movement that probably has more than 100 million people. That's pretty much in every country at this point. For better or for worse. And what's so cool is we've opened up such a great conversation about owning your own identity, having economic agency, being your own bank, and just pushing power to the edges. And pretty much every industry at this point, from how to vote to supply chains to basically your money. And it's so cool to see that go from a hypothetical to a reality where pretty much if you wanted to, you could completely live in the cryptocurrency space end to end. That's something I never thought would happen so quickly.
Wow. I mean, just everything that he says, it's so important to unpack all of the specific details. But basically, he's saying that, we're over 100 million people. I mean, the exact numbers, maybe he means active users, but the exact numbers is around 425 million people right now in crypto as a whole, crypto users. And we can pretty much live only in crypto if we want to in certain circles. And this development is happening fast. This is the fastest growing adoption curve, technology adoption curve in human history. And this man is at the forefront of this. I mean, he is just a visionary leader who understands what the crypto movement is meant to do as a whole. And, he speaks about self-sovereign identity, having sovereignty over your money, being able to make your own decisions. And this is what we should advocate for in this space. Now let's hear a little bit more from Charles on a topic that I absolutely love, that I unpacked on this fireside chat as well, called Why We Fight. Why do we fight for the things that we fight for within crypto? Why are we even here? What is the purpose of all of this?
Peace. And to add, that's something I never thought would happen so quickly.
Absolutely. It's like the fastest growing technology adoption curve in history. And it is just so incredible to witness the maturation of the industry, but also of the Cardano ecosystem, having been actually one of the first projects I ever really investigated and invested into, because I really loved the proposition of what this community is about. And so as we, begin this discussion, I'd like to set the stage a little. I just listened to one of your live streams. It's called Why We Fight. And it was just so incredible. I highly recommend everybody go listen to that, because what he says in there is just so important for the evolution of our nation and our world and society as a whole. And, some of those topics are really important in setting the stage where we're at now. The world stage, which is, what we're fighting for on the other side of this, and how we're going to get there, and how the Cardano ecosystem is empowering that. And I just love some of the stuff that you defined in the fight that we're fighting right now. It's kind of like two parallel worlds where we're fighting for basic human rights, for freedom, for control, sovereignty, self-sovereignty, sovereign identity, control of our money. And, the society has to come together as a whole to make that happen. So I really, really love what you said in that interview, and that the next 10 years will be the biggest years of change in human history.
So that was just my opening remarks, commenting on, what Charles is going to go through on this interview with me. If you want to listen to the entire interview, which I highly recommend, I will put a link up to that now, as well as at the end of this video. He goes into great detail. And there's everything from CBDCs, meaning a central bank digital currency, and their control, what the actual Web 2.0 or traditional world is trying to do, and the direction they're trying to head, and why crypto and Web 3 are necessary. They're so necessary in this Why We Fight movement. So let's watch the next clip.
Zach, you could be a millionaire, you can even be a billionaire, but you're not legally allowed, because your money's been turned off, to go and do something. Now, the other thing is, it will be a financial panopticon. Every transaction you've ever made, every person you have a financial relationship with, is completely known. I don't know about you, but I don't think I want my Amazon shopping cart known by everybody in the entire world. But that's basically what the CBDC angle is going to push. And they're also going to put suitability guidelines for the products you're allowed to buy in terms of financial products. So whether you can invest in a certain stock or commodity, let's say gold, the US dollar starts weakening a little bit. They say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't buy any gold anymore. We're just going to soft ban gold by preventing you from buying it. You see this already in Canada, where they're actually restricting which cryptocurrencies you can purchase. And they say, oh, you're only allowed to buy a certain amount of ADA, but it's okay to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. That's just an example of where this is already starting to occur. So that is the agenda. That is the goal. And so obviously crypto is the enemy of that. So what you have to do is invent this bizarre narrative that somehow crypto is bad for you, and somehow being in charge of your own life, having freedom, is a bad thing. And the nanny state has to come in and protect you from cradle to grave and give this type of a system. Why? Because it's the only way that I think the WEFites can get ESG globally between everybody in the world. If you really want to reduce carbon, if you really want to enforce certain business practices on people, the most effective way of doing that is having control over people's money.
Wow. some other majorly huge concepts. I mean, there are a lot of things to unpack here, but basically he's just explaining why CBDCs, which I just mentioned previously, why the control of your money through CBDCs is the antithesis of crypto. It is the enemy of crypto. It's just the opposite. You don't have any control. In fact, it's the same old tired system that we're so tired of now, with better technology and more control. So I actually didn't know that they were restricting or limiting the amount of crypto you could buy in Canada, Bitcoin and Ethereum versus Cardano or other altcoins, which is crazy. And also, yes, they are mounting this narrative, especially Elizabeth Warren, our senator, who seemingly has her pockets lined by the banks, and Gary Gensler seems to be right there with her, just pushing those narratives for the banks and mounting this kind of like anti-crypto attack instead of the two worlds coming together, working together to produce some sort of happy medium and a better alternative for the world. So there is a choice here, and it is whether or not you choose to opt out. And I most certainly choose to opt out. Like I've said before on the stream, I've got enough money in the bank to pay the most immediate bills, maybe for a year or two's worth of transactions or whatever I may need to pay. And the rest I'm keeping in crypto. I'm very crypto heavy. That is just me. I like to have control over my own money. And that is the point of this entire movement.
How many people are in self-sovereign identity and never let anybody come to you and say, well, people are actually in control of their finance? How many people actually are educated and understand these paradigms? How many people are in self-sovereign identity and never let anybody come to you and say, well, people are just too stupid to figure that out? No, that's some arrogant person assuming that everybody around him is stupider than him and trying to convince the world that that's an okay notion. If people don't understand it, then that's one of our North Stars of how do we educate people and how do we actually convert people and grow them up. Everybody in the planet learned how to use a computer. Everybody on the planet learned how to use the internet. Everybody on the planet learned how to use a smartphone. I see 90-year-olds running around with iPhones. Don't tell me that people can't learn how to do very complicated things if they have the right mentors and right incentives. So what you need to do is structure things in the right way to facilitate that. And that's what Cardano is going to actually do as part of its growth. Now that we have this beautiful blossoming decentralized government, CIP 1694, that's coming, 43 workshops over the next 2 months, and then all of them will get aggregated together in Scotland, and a great consensus will emerge, and community will vote on it, get it in. Once that government turns on, it'll have all these beautiful North Stars, and there's going to be thousands of conversations just like this one across the globe.
So I really like what he's saying here. We must not believe that people are too stupid to get educated on this topic. I mean, in every paradigm shift, there will be educational hurdles. I mean, I remember Bill Gates explaining the internet. I put a clip the other day up of Bill Gates explaining what the internet was on The Tonight Show. And people were just kind of laughing at him like, oh, this is just like some nerdy technology that I'm probably never going to use. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And so it's so funny that we've come full circle and here we are again today. Our kids will probably, or our grandkids or whoever in the coming generations will look back on these moments and laugh at them as well. We are in the very, very early stages of this movement, believe it or not. And we have such a long way to go. But that's why I take education so seriously. And that's why I'm on this 2-year world tour now, speaking to anyone from beginner level to C-level executive, trying to educate companies, newcomers, not only on investing, but how to implement a Web3 strategy, how they can use blockchain technology to advance their company and their interaction with their fans or their community. Sky is the limit, guys. Sky is the limit. And that's why I am all in on this movement, not only invested wise, but also in my career. I just couldn't feel like I'm in a better place than right here with all of you going through this together. Finally, the last clip that I'll play for you before getting into my price prediction for Cardano this upcoming bull run. Here we go.
Or die. I'm sure there's plenty of new work for 1 billion people, then 2 billion people, then 3 billion people. And it doesn't really matter at that point what the Europeans, the Americans, or others say, because they'll just basically be outcompeted. Either they change or die. I'm sure there's plenty of newspapers that saw the internet and said, oh, screw that thing. Oh, we're newspapers. We're big and scary. You can't stop us. That are now completely out of business. Look at what happened in the industry. Why? They got disrupted. Why do we need custodians? Why do we need broker dealers? Why do we need, multi-day settlement for securities transactions? Why do we need all these complicated identity providers that suck value out of every transaction, these multi-sided marketplaces with middlemen of necessity instead of value? We don't need any of these things. We can get rid of them in a heartbeat if we adopted cryptocurrencies. And the people who do it are going to be far more competitive, better at business, and ultimately there's more trust and integrity in the system. I can build with Cardano a voting system that would make the American election system look like a toy. And we are doing it with SIP 1694 and other innovations that we're bringing to the marketplace. What does this translate to? Free and fair elections. It's kind of screwed up that the thing that decides the person who's going to be the most powerful person in the world is an inferior system to a system built by a collection of volunteers and companies for an internet protocol. But that's where we're at. And you know what? If it's built for Cardano, it's actually accessible to nation states, corporations, clubs. So suddenly the best voting systems in the world are going to be free to use or very low cost to use on a protocol and open to everybody. Rise together, that type of a thing. And as nation states adopts this, they contribute to it, and that organism gets more and more powerful. So that ecosystem thinking, that resilient organism thinking, that network effect thinking, that marketplace thinking is how you win. Okay, because the other people, what they think is protectionism. How do we punish people? How do we harm people? How do we close people out? How do we use nepotism and corporatism and regulation as a cudgel to prevent people from surviving? Meanwhile, on the other side of it, we're lifting people out of poverty, and very practically speaking, you just start with the bread and butter stuff. Microfinance transactions, remittances, supply chain, small-scale securities, small-scale investments, these types of things. You go to jurisdictions that are quite ready for it, like Kenya, and then very quickly that wildfire spreads across Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa, and then you wake up in 5 years, you have an end-to-end global financial operating system with trillions of dollars of assets and an organic circular economy.
And that right there is the future of cryptocurrency, everyone. There he did. He laid out the plan for the entire future of cryptocurrency from the outside in, lifting people up, rising together, building a robust system that can make the American election system look like a toy. I mean, these are such crazy big ideas. And he's talking about, what I said, people laughing at Bill Gates explaining the internet back in the day in the 1990s. I mean, here we are, full circle. This man is a leader. I believe he will take us to where we need to go. He's open to conversations, to pivoting, to continually upgrading and, making things better. And that's the kind of person I want to get behind. So this is why I'm in Cardano, guys. This is why I'm in Cardano. And now back to the price action for my mega prediction for this upcoming bull cycle. So those of you who stuck around to the end, you now have a masterclass in how crypto is going to change the world. So congratulations, share that with your friends, family, and get people involved who you care about, because this is such an opportunity. And before I get to my prediction, which here you can see $10 is one of my predictions for my more bullish case scenarios, but not the most bullish case scenario. If you would have invested $500 when I did, just under 5 cents, your $500 would be over $100,000 at the $10 possible peak this cycle. If you were to buy and hold from last cycle, that's insane. I'm not saying that's the way to go. I'm not saying, because you never know with crypto. So it's great to take profits. I do take profits. I will take profits. I want you guys to visualize what a small amount of time invested at the right time in the market could do over a period of years. So a $1,000 investment would be $200,000, $5,000 over $1 million, $10,000 over $2 million. That's powerful. And finally, I'm pulling up my Cardano chart from when I invested to explain to you guys my base and most bullish case scenario. So here is where I invested last cycle in February 2020. Right here. And this is the halving of May 2020. As you can see, Cardano kind of went sideways and to the right for a year. And after that, it took off and waited for no one. And I always say this in every episode, don't wait for it to take off and leave you behind. Start allocating now. And look at, just as I do this video, like I mentioned before, I started talking about Cardano a month ago when I started this initiative to help you here on YouTube to get prepared for what I know to be true. It's not if, it's when, okay? I know we will have an insane bull run coming up. All of the factors line up, and I want to help you get prepared for this massive opportunity. So it was at 26 cents when I talked about it back then. And I explained my base case, which is still bullish, and my most bullish case is not even written here. I'm just going to tell you. So $6, I truly believe we can hit a $6 price point for Cardano. Where I began talking about it, that would have been a 23x. And I also think that we could wick up to $8 and even $10. $10 is not out of the realm. For those of you who follow Crypto Crow, he's a big Cardano advocate. I actually didn't know about him when I first invested in Cardano, but I've since met him. He's in my circles, in the YouTuber circles, and I think he's a really cool guy. And he was explaining something that I think it's important to understand, that the market cap doesn't exactly correlate to price because it's all about TVL and the circulating supply at the time of, whenever we're talking about. So say it's at the height of the bull run and there are less people that are willing to sell than people buying. That pushes the price pressure up. There's only so many available. So you could get a wild price out of Cardano for a certain period of time. And that doesn't mean that that's going to be sustainable. What it just means is if there's more demand than supply at that time, then the price could skyrocket. And it could hit up to $20 to $30, like Jason says, Crypto Crow. And then he gets into don't get on my case. This is not sensationalism. It's just putting it out there, guys. Wild things happen in this market when demand gets heavy, FOMO kicks in, and you've got about 40 or 50% of the supply staked, 60% even. So if there's only 40% of that entire supply available and there's more demand than supply, then these kind of things do happen. They can happen. So I just want to put that out there. That doesn't mean that that's one of my predictions. My base case would be $6. I believe we can hit $6 and even wick up to $8 to $10. And in a crazy, crazy scenario, we could see $20 to $30. Maybe not this cycle, maybe next cycle, but it is possible. It is possible, but we're not betting the farm on it. We're making a plan based on certain price targets and also taking profits along the way, right? So if $6 so the current price is at 38 cents. If we are going to take the base bull case of $6, that would be a 16x from here. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. I mean, a 9 to 10x on the altcoins would be phenomenal. This is just, for me, one of the safer bets in my portfolio and one of the more foundational bets. And so a 16x from even the price where we were, it was a 23x just a month ago, is phenomenal. If we wick up to $8, things get crazy. That would be a 21x from here, and $10 at, an absolute euphoric peak would put us at a 26x from here. And then, of course, I outlined the crazy, crazy scenarios, which is 52x and 79x for $20 and $30. So let's just say, anywhere from a 10 to 15x is completely possible for Cardano this cycle. And, slowly but surely, we are chugging right along. And I am very, very optimistic on Cardano for the coming bull cycles and, the next decade, to be honest. I think Cardano will stand the test of time. So I did outline a few things here based on these multiple X's, a 30X. So I did the numbers based on a 30X, which would be $8 from the 26 cent price point. So 30X with $100 would equal 3,000, 1,000 would equal 30,000, and 2,500 would equal 75,000 at the end of the bull market. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, but I don't have $1,000 or I don't have $2,500 to invest in these markets. This is the power of compounding your gains. This is not the first bull market and it won't be the last. So just consider this bull market. If it's your first bull market and you have a limited amount of money to invest, consider it the money that you're going to compound over time, over cycles. And if you don't take profits, it's not going to be as easy. Yeah, I just gave you a scenario about if I were to hold from last cycle when I bought it all the way up to the peak of this cycle maybe, but I can probably make a lot more money by actually taking profits at the top of the cycles or near the top. We'll never time the top, and then reinvesting when it goes lower and continuing on like that throughout the cycles. The set it and forget it approach, but based on these cycles of bull and bear and liquidity and no liquidity. And that's how you make money in these markets. You compound your wealth over time. I hope you learned a thing or two about Cardano this episode, and it is certainly one that I am still allocating toward, and I continue to allocate toward under 40 cents. So that's just me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow.